The Moki Dugway doesn't warn you the way a dangerous road should. It doesn't rise up in front of you like a wall. It doesn't roar. From the top of Cedar Mesa, it barely looks like a road at all. The pavement simply ends. The guardrail you'd expect never appears, and the ground falls away into 1,000 feet of open air. You can see for 100 miles from up there. Valley of the Gods below you, the buttes of Monument Valley smudged blue on the horizon, the whole floor of southeastern Utah spread out flat and quiet. It is one of the most beautiful views in the American Southwest, and it is trying very hard to convince you that everything is fine. On a dry day, it mostly is. 3 miles of graded gravel, 11% grade. Switchback after switchback carved into the face of the cliff. Drive it slow and steady and you'll be at the bottom in 20 minutes with a story to tell. But this road was cut into rock and dirt, not poured in concrete, and dirt keeps a secret that pavement never does. When the rain comes, the surface you trusted turns into something else entirely. The gravel that gripped your tires becomes a film of slick red mud sitting on top of hardpan. The runoff finds the same downhill path your car is on. And the edge, the one with no rail, the one with the 100-mile view, is still right there where it always was. The Moki Dugway lets you believe you have control the whole way up. It waits until the weather turns to show you how little of that control was ever really yours. The Moki Dugway isn't famous for wrecks or for a body count. It's famous for a view. And that's exactly what makes it worth talking about. This is a road that looks like a scenic detour on a map and behaves like a mountain pass in the wrong conditions. To understand why you should never drive it in the rain, you first have to understand why anyone put a road here at all. Why is there a road here? If you stood at the base of Cedar Mesa in 1950 and looked up at that cliff, the idea of a road going over the top would have seemed absurd. There was no reason for one. The mesa was high, dry, remote country, home to ancestral Puebloan ruins and not much else in the way of traffic. The towns down here were small and far apart. Nobody needed a shortcut up a sheer rock face in a corner of Utah most Americans couldn't find on a map. And then, almost overnight, somebody did. The thing that built the Moki Dugway was uranium. In the years after the Second World War, the United States government wanted uranium badly, and it wanted it fast. The Cold War was on. The nuclear arsenal was growing, and the Atomic Energy Commission was offering guaranteed prices and bonuses to anyone who could pull ore out of the ground. The Colorado Plateau, which includes this part of Utah, turned out to be sitting on some of the richest uranium deposits in the country. What followed was a genuine boom, the kind that pulls prospectors and mining companies into empty country with money and equipment and very little patience. Up on and around Cedar Mesa, the ore was there. The problem was geography. The Happy Jack mine, over in the Fry Canyon area, was producing uranium that needed to get to a processing mill. And the mill was down near Mexican Hat, at the bottom of the mesa. Between the ore and the mill stood that cliff. You could haul the ore the long way around, burning time and fuel on every single load, or you could do the thing that mining companies in a boom always do. You could build a road straight down the wall. In 1958, a company called Texas Zinc did exactly that. They carved the Moki Dugway into the face of Cedar Mesa specifically to move uranium ore from the top down to the mill at the bottom. This was not built as a scenic drive. It was not built for tourists or campers or anybody in a passenger car admiring the view. It was built as an industrial haul road, a piece of mining infrastructure meant to get loaded trucks down a cliff as directly as physics would allow. The state of Utah had actually laid out the route the year before, in 1957, adding State Route 261 to its highway system running from near Mexican Hat all the way north toward Natural Bridges. But the Dugway itself, That unpaved stretch clinging to the rock was a mining company's answer to a mining company's problem. And here's the part that matters for our story. When the uranium boom cooled and the trucks stopped running, the road stayed. It's still there. It's still State Route 261, maintained today by the Utah Department of Transportation. The pavement runs smooth for most of the route's 30-some miles, and then, right at the Dugway, it just stops and turns to gravel for those 3 miles down the cliff. A haul road built for ore trucks in 1958 is now a road that anybody with a rental car and a full tank can drive. The purpose changed completely. The road never did. What the Dugway actually is, let's talk about the name, because it tells you something. Moki, sometimes spelled Moki, was the term Spanish explorers used for the ancestral Puebloan people who lived across this region long before any of this. The word attached itself to the whole area, to the ruins, to the artifacts, to the mesa. And a Dugway is exactly what it sounds like. It's a road dug into the side of a hill or a mountain, cut into the slope rather than laid on top of flat ground. So the name, plainly translated, means the road dug into the cliff in the country of the old ones. That's it. There's no legend baked into the name, no ghost story. The name is just a description, and the description is accurate. Now the numbers. The Dugway drops roughly 1,100 to 1,200 feet from the top of Cedar Mesa to the valley floor below. It does that in about 3 miles of unpaved switchbacks. The grade runs to about 11%, which is steep for any road and genuinely steep for a road made of dirt and gravel. To put that in some perspective, most interstate mountain grades top out around 6 or 7%. And those are engineered, paved, and drained. The Dugway is steeper than that, on gravel, with switchbacks tight enough that a longer vehicle has to swing wide just to get the nose around. The surface is graded dirt and gravel. On a good day it's firm and well kept, which is exactly what fools people. It doesn't look treacherous. It looks like a maintained gravel road, and for the most part, on a dry day, that's what it is. The Bureau of Land Management recommends that only vehicles under 28 feet long and under 10,000 pounds attempt it. And that recommendation is worth taking seriously because the switchbacks were laid out for ore trucks with drivers who did this every day, not for a 30-foot motorhome towing a car. And then there's the thing that everyone notices and nobody quite prepares for. There are no guardrails. None. On the outside edge of those switchbacks, where the ground drops away toward the valley, there is nothing between your tires and the open air, but a few feet of gravel and in some spots a low berm of dirt. This is normal for the Dugway. It always has been. A mining haul road in 1958 was not going to be lined with steel barriers, and the modern road has stayed true to its origins. On a dry day, with your speed down and your attention up, that missing rail is a thrill. It's part of the appeal. People stop at the pullouts and take photographs of exactly that drop. But a guardrail isn't only there to stop you when you're already sliding. It's there for the day the road doesn't behave the way you expect. And on the Moki Dugway, the day the road stops behaving is the day it rains. Why the rain changes everything here's what most people don't understand about a road like this. Pavement and gravel are not just two versions of the same thing. They respond to water in completely opposite ways. A paved road sheds water. It's designed to. The surface is sealed, it's crowned to drain to the sides, and even when it's wet, the tire is still gripping a solid, consistent surface. A dirt and gravel road does the opposite. It absorbs water until it can't anymore, and then the top layer turns to mud. When rain hits the Moki Dugway, the graded surface that held your tires so nicely becomes a thin layer of slick red clay and loose gravel riding on top of harder ground underneath. That top layer is the part your tires are touching, and it wants to move. This is the specific danger, and it's worth being precise about it. It isn't that the whole road washes away in an instant. It's that traction, the thing every single part of driving depends on, quietly disappears. Your tires start to skate on the mud instead of biting into the gravel. Steering inputs that worked a minute ago now do less than you asked, or nothing at all. Braking that felt firm now feels vague, because a locked tire on wet clay isn't stopping the car, it's sliding down the hill on a cushion of mud. And remember which direction that hill runs. Rainwater on the Dugway does the same thing your car is trying to do. It runs downhill, along the road, taking the path of least resistance. That means the water pools and channels exactly where you're driving, cutting little ruts, loosening the surface, carrying gravel away and leaving slick spots behind. In a hard storm, the runoff coming down off Cedar Mesa can turn sections of the Dugway into a running stream and, in the worst cases, make the road genuinely impassable. This is not a warning I'm inventing for effect. Local guidance for this road says it plainly. During and after rain or snow, the Moki Dugway can become impassable, and that goes for four-wheel drive vehicles too. Four-wheel drive helps you get moving. It does absolutely nothing to help you stop, and stopping is the entire problem on a downhill grade. Now put those two facts together. You have a steep, unpaved, 11% descent with no guardrails on the outside edge, and you have a surface that, when wet, robs you of traction and steering at the same time. On a dry day, if you start to drift a little, you correct, you slow down, you're fine. On a wet day, the correction doesn't take. You turn the wheel and the car keeps going the way gravity is pulling it. And gravity on the outside of a switchback with no rail is pulling toward the edge. That is the whole reason the rule exists. Not because the road is haunted, because the physics stop cooperating right where the consequences are the highest. The moment it gets away from you, let me walk through how it actually goes wrong. Because it doesn't happen the way people imagine. Nobody comes over the top of the Dugway flooring it. That's not the failure. The failure is slow, and it's polite. And it's already happening before the driver realizes anything is wrong. You start down in good faith. Maybe the rain caught you at the top, and you figured you'd just take it slow. Slow feels safe, and for the first switchback or two, it works. Then you reach the first place where you actually need the brakes to hold you back against the grade. And you feel it. The pedal comes back a little soft. The car doesn't slow as fast as you expected. What's happening is that your tires are riding on that film of mud, and a tire that's sliding can't slow you and can't steer you. So you do the natural thing. You press the brake harder. And on wet clay, pressing harder just locks the wheel, and a locked wheel slides even better than a rolling one. Now, you're a passenger. The switchback is coming. On a dry road, you'd ease off, turn in, and the tires would carry you around. On the wet surface, you turn the wheel, and the front of the car pushes wide, straight toward the outside of the curve, because the tires can't get the grip to change the car's direction. That push toward the outside is called understeer. And on a normal road, it just means you run a little wide and gather it back up. On the Moki Dugway, the outside of that curve is the edge. There's no rail to catch a car that runs wide. There's a berm of dirt at best, and past it, the view. This is why the danger of this road is so different from the danger of a fast highway. On the Dugway, the speeds are low. You might be going 15 or 20 miles an hour when it starts to go wrong. That sounds survivable, and on flat ground it would be. But you're not on flat ground. You're on a shelf cut into a cliff, and a slow slide toward a 1,000-foot drop is every bit as final as a fast one. Low speed is not the same as safe when there's nothing under the edge. There's a second trap here, and it's a human one. When a driver feels the car start to slide on a steep descent, the instinct is to keep braking, to slow down at any cost. But on a loose, wet surface, gentle and steady is the only thing that works, and panic braking is the surest way to lock up and lose steering entirely. The road demands a calm that's very hard to summon when you can see the edge and feel the car ignoring you. The Dugway doesn't punish speed the way a mountain pass punishes a runaway truck. It punishes the loss of traction, and it does it at exactly the point where you have the least room to recover. Up is not the same as down. There's one more thing worth understanding, and it's the difference between climbing the Dugway and descending it, because they are not the same drive. Going up, gravity is working against you, and that's actually the safer direction in a strange way. If your tires lose grip on the way up, the car slows, stalls, and stops. You lose forward progress. That's frustrating, and it can leave you stuck, but a stuck car sitting still on the inside of a switchback is not a car going over the edge. The failure mode of the climb is embarrassment, not catastrophe. Coming down is the opposite. Gravity is on the roadside now, pulling you toward the bottom whether your tires are cooperating or not. Every foot of that 11% grade is trying to add speed you don't want, and the only thing holding you back is traction you may not have. When the surface is wet, the descent is where the trouble lives, and it's no accident that the direction with the higher stakes is the one people are usually in when they get caught by a storm. They've driven up onto the mesa in the morning, spent the day at the overlooks or in the backcountry, and now they're heading back down in the afternoon, right when the summer storms tend to build. The dangerous direction and the dangerous time of day line up almost perfectly. And rain isn't even the only version of this problem. It's just the most common one. Snow and ice do the same thing to the Dugway that rain does, only worse and for longer, which is why the warnings always name both. A dusting of snow on those switchbacks, or a layer of ice under fresh powder, turns the same 11% grade into something no ordinary vehicle should be on at all. The good news, if you can call it that, is that snow tends to announce itself. You know it's winter, you know the high country gets weather, and you plan around it. Rain is sneakier. It can arrive on a warm, clear day with almost no warning, catch a driver who never thought to check the forecast, and change the road underneath them in a matter of minutes. That's the version that gets people. Not the obvious hazard they respected, but the ordinary afternoon shower they didn't think twice about. Why people drive it anyway, so if this road is that unforgiving in the wet, why do people keep getting caught out on it? The answer is that almost everything about the Moki Dugway is designed, or has come to feel, reassuring. And that reassurance is the real hazard. Start with the map. Route 261 is a state highway. It has a shield and a number just like any other road, and it's part of a designated scenic byway, the Trail of the Ancients. When your navigation app plots a route from Natural Bridges down toward Monument Valley, it may well send you right over the Dugway, because on the map it's the direct line and it's a numbered state route. Nothing in that little blue line tells you that 3 miles of it are unpaved switchbacks down a cliff. People come over the top having no idea what's about to happen, because the road promised them it was a highway. Then there's the vehicle problem. This country draws road trippers, and road trippers drive big rigs. Motorhomes, oversized trucks, rentals, towing trailers. The Dugway's switchbacks were cut for ore trucks with professional drivers, and a long or heavy vehicle simply can't make the geometry work safely, especially with the extra momentum a heavy load carries downhill. The BLM's guidance about staying under 28 feet and 10,000 pounds exists for a reason. But a recommendation on a website isn't a barrier at the top of the road. Plenty of people find out their rig is too big for the Dugway when they're already committed to it. And then there's the view, which is genuinely the whole reason most people are up there. The overlooks are stunning. Muley Point, just up the road, is one of the great hidden viewpoints in the Southwest. People come for the scenery, and scenery pulls your eyes away from the surface right when the surface is the thing that matters most. On a dry day, that trade is fine. On a wet day, a driver splitting attention between the road and the horizon on an 11% muddy grade with no guardrail is stacking the odds against themselves without ever meaning to. The last piece is the weather itself. Storms in this part of Utah can build fast, especially in monsoon season in late summer, when a clear morning turns into a downpour by afternoon. A driver can start up the Dugway in perfect conditions and be halfway down when the sky opens. The dry road they trusted at the top is not the road they're on by the bottom. That's the scenario the local warnings are really built around. It isn't the driver who ignores an obvious storm. It's the driver who gets caught by one, on a surface that changes faster than the weather does. The facts behind the reputation. By this point, the Moki Dugway has a reputation, but I want to ground it in the plain facts, because this road doesn't need any exaggeration to earn its warning. State Route 261 runs about 33 miles through San Juan County in southeastern Utah, from its junction with US 163 north of Mexican Hat up to State Route 95 near Natural Bridges National Monument. It's maintained by the Utah Department of Transportation, and most of it is ordinary paved two-lane highway. The Moki Dugway is the exception. For roughly 3 miles, the pavement gives way to graded gravel as the road climbs the face of Cedar Mesa, and then it returns to pavement at the top. That unpaved stretch gains, or drops, somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200 feet of elevation, on a grade that reaches about 11%, through a series of tight switchbacks with no guardrails on the outer edge. The road was carved into the cliff in 1958 by the Texas Zinc Mining Company to haul uranium ore from the Happy Jack mine in the Fry Canyon area down to the processing mill near Mexican Hat during the Cold War uranium boom that swept across the Colorado Plateau. Utah added the alignment to its state highway system as SR 261 in 1957. So the road you drive today for the view is, at its core, a piece of 1950s mining infrastructure that outlived the industry that built it. The Bureau of Land Management recommends that only vehicles shorter than 28 feet and lighter than 10,000 pounds attempt the Dugway, and posted speeds through the switchbacks are very low by design. And the weather guidance is consistent from every serious source that covers this road. During and after rain or snow, the surface can turn to slick mud, runoff can channel down the roadway, and the Dugway can become impassable, even for four-wheel drive vehicles. That last detail is the one to hold on to, because it cuts against the most common bit of overconfidence. People assume four-wheel drive makes them safe here. It doesn't. Four-wheel drive can help you climb. Nothing about it helps you stop or steer on a downhill grade coated in wet clay, and stopping and steering are the only things that matter when the road runs out. And if you'd like to check any of this for yourself, all of it comes from publicly available transportation, land management, and historical records. I'll leave the key sources in the video description for anyone who wants to dig deeper into the road's history or its numbers. Here's what I keep coming back to with the Moki Dugway. It isn't a cruel road. It's an honest one. It's a haul road built for a job, still doing a version of that job decades later, and it has never once pretended to be something it isn't. The pavement ends where the cliff begins. The guardrail was never there. The gravel is exactly as loose as gravel is. Everything about the danger is right out in the open. The only thing the road can't do is choose the weather for you. On a dry day, it will give you one of the finest drives and finest views in the country. In the rain, it will take everything it just gave you and turn it against you, quietly, one lost inch of traction at a time, right at the edge where there's nothing left to give back. So if you ever find yourself at the top of Cedar Mesa with the sky going gray and the first drops hitting your windshield, the smartest thing you can do is the hardest thing to do with a view like that in front of you. Wait. Turn around. Let the storm pass and the surface dry. The Dugway has been up there since 1958, and it will still be there tomorrow. The view isn't going anywhere. Neither is the edge. Well, we hope you enjoyed our story today. Maybe you've driven the Moki Dugway yourself, in good weather or bad, and you've got a story to tell about it. If so, leave it in the comments below. I read them, and the stories you all share are one of the best parts of running this channel. And if you enjoyed the video, if you would, please reach over and hit the like button. That really does help it go farther here on YouTube. We'd love it too if you shared it with someone you think would enjoy the ride. You know, we love telling the stories of the roads that move us, the history that's hiding in plain sight, sometimes right on the edge of a cliff in the middle of nowhere. If that's something you enjoy as well, why don't you join us on this caravan and subscribe to the channel? We know there are a lot of other places you could be on this highway we call YouTube, and we're grateful you spent some of your time with us. As always, until next time, thank you for watching, and God bless.